The lake was still that night. Too still. Not a single ripple disturbed its black surface, reflecting the half-moon like a polished glass portal to another world. The air was thick with mist, curling over the water like ghostly fingers creeping onto the shore. Alex sat by the dying fire, nursing a half-empty bottle of whiskey. The glow of the embers cast flickering shadows across his face. His breath fogged in the cold air as he stared toward the lake, his expression unreadable. The drowned girl story. Another one of your creepy stories. This one's real. Years ago, a girl drowned in this lake. Some say she slipped, others say she was pulled under. So what, she's a ghost now? Not just a ghost. People say she calls out to you. If you hear her voice, it's already too late. What was that? Probably a fish. No, that sounded closer. Another plop, this time just a few feet from shore. The group went silent. Then drifting from the water, a voice. Soft, faint, distant. Help me, please. Who was that? No one. Maybe someone's actually out there. I'll check. Don't. That's how she gets you. You're such a baby. He pulled free and strode toward the dock. The old wooden planks groaned under his weight. A thick layer of fog rolled in over the water, swallowing the dock's edge. Jared squinted into the black void, his reflection barely visible in the stillness. The lake stared back. Help me. Please. A ripple spread outward from the center. The lake had always been a place of peace, a quiet retreat where fishermen cast their lines and watched the mist rise from the water in the early morning light. But for the town of Black Hollow, that peace was shattered decades ago by an event so horrific that most refused to speak of it. A fisherman named Thomas Grayson had lived in a small, battered cabin at the lake's edge. He was a quiet, brooding man known for his obsession with the water. He had spent his life fishing, alone in the dark hours before dawn, never speaking much to the town folk. But when a group of drunk teenagers stole his boat one night and left it to sink, something inside him snapped. For days, Thomas roamed the shoreline, muttering to himself, eyes sunken and hollow. Then, one evening he rode out onto the lake alone under the light of a blood-red moon. He never came back. Some said he drowned. Others whispered he had made a deal with something beneath the lake. But after that night, the fishing in Black Hollow changed. Boats capsized without warning. Men disappeared. And when the lake was disturbed after dark, a shadow moved beneath the surface, watching, waiting. Decades later, Inchi. On a crisp autumn evening, 4 friends arrived at Black Hollow for a weekend of camping, unaware of the horrors that lay in wait. Damn, this place looks abandoned. Yeah, because it is. No one comes here anymore. Something about a curse or whatever. You believe that nonsense? It's just a lake. Let's just set up the tents. As night fell, the group gathered around the fire, laughing and drinking. The lake stretched before them, black and motionless, reflecting the moon like an eye. Ever hear the story of the fisherman's revenge? Oh God, here we go. They say old Thomas Grayson never really left this lake. They say he watches from beneath the water, waiting for those who dare to fish after dark. He doesn't take kindly to trespassers. If you see his shadow move, it's already too late. That's just a story, right? Want to find out? The rod jerked violently. That was fast. The reel spun wildly, the line pulled tight as if something enormous lurked below. He gritted his teeth, trying to keep hold. Jesus, this is heavy. Chris, maybe you should let it go. No way, this is the biggest catch of my life. The water rippled, and then the line snapped. What the hell? The lake stilled. The ripples vanished. Silence pressed in. And then a wet slap echoed from the dock. Did you hear that? Another slap. Heavy, wet, closer. Nothing. Just empty planks. A breeze whispered through the trees. The fire crackled, and then a figure rose from the water. The thing standing at the dock's edge was tall, hunched, dripping black water. The tattered remains of an old fishing coat clung to its rotted frame. Its eyes, sunken and hollow, locked onto them. And in one horrible, gurgling breath, it whispered, "You shouldn't have fished in my lake," screams. The thing lunged, the group scattered. Mia ran toward the truck, but the keys were still in Jake's pocket. She turned, only to see Chris being dragged toward the water, his screams muffled by the thing's grip around his throat. "Help me! I've got you! Hold on! Come join us!" And then it yanked Chris under. The water exploded, then went still. Chris was gone. No. We have to go now. As the truck's headlights flickered on, something stood in front of them. Chris, only it wasn't Chris anymore. His body dripped with lake water. His skin was too pale, too bloated. His lips curled into a slow, unnatural smile. "Why are you leaving?" "Oh my God." The truck sped forward, but Chris didn't move. Instead, he smiled wider. As the truck passed through him, the headlights flickered. For a split second, they weren't on the road anymore. They were somewhere else, dark, cold, underwater. Shapes moved in the shadows, hands reached for them, and then the world snapped back. Did you see that? Chris. He's gone. They didn't speak. They didn't stop. And behind them, at the edge of the lake, something watched, waiting. Because the fisherman never forgets, and he never forgives. The small fishing village of Blackwater Cove had always been quiet, a place where life moved slowly, dictated by the rhythm of the tides. Nestled between thick forests and a vast open sea, the town thrived on fishing. Generations of men had cast their nets into the deep, their families depending on the ocean's bounty. But one autumn night, the sea gave them back something unnatural. It started with a strange catch. Old Peter Grayson, the most experienced fisherman in Blackwater Cove, had been out past midnight, his boat swaying under a sky smeared with stars. His nets had sunk deep into the abyss where the fish were plenty. But when he pulled a heavy net onto the deck, his stomach twisted. The fish were wrong. Their bodies were bloated, their scales an unnatural, sickly gray. Some had too many eyes, others had gaping mouths filled with needle-like teeth. A few were still moving, but not like normal fish. Their movements were jerky, twitching as if some unseen force was pulling them like puppets. Then one of the fish snapped its head toward him. Its eyes, black, soulless pits, locked onto his. It leapt. He grabbed his knife, hacking at it desperately, but the fish wouldn't die. Even as he sliced it open, its insides twitched, pulsing with something alive. The old fisherman knew then something evil had awakened in Blackwater Cove. The next morning, the town awoke to a horrific sight. The beach was littered with fish. Thousands of them washed ashore, their lifeless bodies rotting under the gray sky. But as the villagers gathered, whispering and pointing, the fish began to move. A child screamed as a fish's mouth snapped open. revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. More fish began flopping toward them, their movements unnatural, deliberate. Some slithered like eels, others crawled on their fins like grotesque broken animals. Then they attacked. The villagers barely had time to react. Carl shrieked, stumbling backward as more fish latched onto him. They wriggled up his body, gnawing, burrowing. The villagers ran, but the fish were everywhere. Women and children fell, screaming, as the creatures swarmed them. Some were dragged into the sea, thrashing, their blood darkening the waves. The town quickly realized this wasn't natural. The fish weren't just acting on instinct. They were hunting. By nightfall, the surviving villagers barricaded themselves inside their homes. The fish were no longer just in the water. They had crawled onto land, slithering through the streets, lurking in the shadows. Then it spoke. "Fish, let us in. Let us in." Tommy clapped a hand over his mouth, biting back a sob. The fish weren't just mindless monsters. They wanted something. And worse, they were getting smarter. Across town, inside the old tavern, a group of villagers huddled together, clutching whatever weapons they had. "Villager, we have to leave." "Villager 2, there's nowhere to go. They're in the water. They're on land. We're trapped." Then came the whisper. "Fish, we are hungry. Walter, get back, you slimy bastards." Then the window shattered. The fish poured in, not flopping, not wriggling, but crawling. They ripped into the villagers, their teeth sinking deep, their unnatural strength pulling people apart. He screamed as they swarmed him. The tavern became a slaughterhouse. By dawn, only a handful of villagers remained. They ran to the church, the last standing structure in Blackwater Cove. The fish gathered outside, waiting, watching. "Mia, we can't stay here forever, old woman. We must burn the sea." "Jake, what did you say, old woman?" "The sea is cursed. We must burn it, Jake." "Oil." They poured the oil into the water. The fish screamed, a sound so inhuman, so shrill, it shattered glass. "Jake." For Blackwater Cove, the flames exploded across the water, turning the sea into a roaring inferno. The fish shrieked, flailing, melting in the fire. Their screams pierced the air, shaking the very ground beneath them. Then, as the smoke rose, as the town burned, the fish were gone. Blackwater Cove was never the same. The few survivors left, abandoning the town to the ashes and memories. But sometimes in the dead of night, when the waves are too still and the wind whispers through the ruins, you can still hear them fish. We are hungry. We are waiting. Thank you for listening to our stories. Hope you enjoy the show.